Hi everyone, it's Debbie with another video tutorial, and this one is going to be showing you a couple of different things. One is how to use some of your shapes, and we're going to create what is called an Indian wedding card. I learned about this from a nice lady that emailed me and asked me some time ago if I could make a video tutorial showing how this can be done. And so I'm going to get started here. Okay, first of all, I'm going to create a rectangular shape right here with my rectangular tool. And I'm going to go ahead in here and scale it. So we want to make this, I'm going to take off the log aspect ratio because I want it 7.5 by 3.5. And I just type those both in here and then I hit apply. Okay, so we have this first, and I always make a duplicate of everything in case I need to use it again. I've done that too many times where I've needed the shape and then I have to do it all over again. Okay, then I'm going to hop over here, and I have all these different label shapes, and this is the one I want to use to create this card. So I'm going to copy this, go back over here, and we're going to paste it here by right-clicking. Okay, and what I want this label to do is turn into the little flaps here. So I'm first going to scale it, scale it, excuse me. And so as you can see, these are the current dimensions of it. So I want the width to be the 7.5, and I'm going to hit apply. And I'm just going to eyeball this for now of what I want the length to be, because I may have to change this. Okay, probably I'm going to cut it right here in the middle. And I can do this two ways. I can just draw a rectangle here and down to here. I'm going to make sure I line this up. And then by selecting this shape here, hold down the shift key and select them both. And I can go over to modify and then subtract. So that subtracted that piece there. Now to give me an idea if I want it to be this, I'm going to fill it with some color. And right now it doesn't matter, so I'll just fill it with red. And I'm going to go to my replicate tool and mirror below. And as we can see, that's a little too big. So what I'm going to do is bring it in to about here. And I would like to do some other little fix-ups here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this one out. I'm going to zoom in here, because obviously we probably would want this to be straight. So I'm going to edit nodes by double-clicking on it. And just to help me, I'm going to take that fill color out. Okay, now I'm going to go back to edit nodes, and I'm going to select make flat and make flat on this piece. And I can probably delete that point. So I'm scooting these over to the edge to make a nice flat border. So we're going to go over here and do the same thing. I can delete that point. I'm going to make flat. And make flat. Okay, I don't like the way that turned out, so I'm going to undo this, because I want that curve right there on the edge. But this gives you an idea how you can edit these nodes. And always make sure when you're doing this for your own projects to zoom in real close like this so you get a nice little shape going on. So I want that right to the edge. Okay, to me that looks pretty good. So I'm going to zoom back out. But now I'm going to select mirror above on this one, so we can see when this card folds over what it's going to look like. So I'm going to fill it in, and I actually think I can make it even a little smaller. So depending on what kind of opening you want for your invitation, because I like some kind of a design. So I'm going to delete this one out, mirror this one, mirror above, line them up. So now, if I fill these both with color, you can see the design I'm going to have on the end. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill them with red again real quick. And so that the openings of this invitation, this wedding invitation, will have this little design here, and this is the actual part where you can put the wording for the invitation. So let's go ahead and unfill that for now. And we're just going to switch these around, because we're going to go back to this in a little bit. But right now, I also want to make trim, which I used a high gloss, heavy cardboard stock that I used for the trim when I made one of these. And I will try and get a picture up on my blog of the finished. So what I'm going to do here is, once again, we're going to make a copy of this. Each time I do something, I'm just going to go ahead and make an extra copy. And I'm going to take this here and I'm going to make an internal offset. And increase that offset to where I would get a nice trim. I don't want to make it too thin. I did use a glue pen to put the trim work on. Okay, so now I can select both of these, right click it, make compound path. And again, we're going to have to go in here. We can do it two ways, which I think this would make a nice cleaner cut, but I still want to make sure that it's right to the edge. And for those without the knife tools or whatever, this will work perfect. But you can use your knife tool. Okay, so selecting, I can see right over here to the edge, I need to bring it over just a tad more. And perhaps bring this in just a tad right there. Okay, so again, I'm going to hold down my shift key, selecting both, go to your modify tool, and again, we're going to subtract. And there we go. Now see, I see a couple of little jagged edges, which I would go in and correct. Again, by editing those nodes. I deleted that one, and I'm just going to line this one up to get a nice straight edge. And then I'm going to swoop over here, do the same thing. I'm going to delete this node, delete point, and scoot this in to give it a nice straight edge. Now I'm going back to fit to window. So this is going to be our trim piece for the tops and the bottoms. So obviously I'm going to need to duplicate this again. So we'll have two pieces. Okay, now you probably want to know what I was doing with that other piece. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of grab these and move them to the side so I can work on this area. Okay, so now we need a design that our sketch pen is going to sketch for this card, because the Indian wedding card invitations, she sent me some pictures, they're very ornate. So how do we go about getting a nice piece of line art for these? Well, I discovered a new way to do this than what I originally did it. So I'm going to type in here vintage decorative signs, and this was free to download. this particular font. So I have this, and I'm going to, it's going to need to be pretty small. I think I did it about 36, and I'm going to select the letter H for the design I want. And I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see it. See, isn't that pretty? Okay, now I'm going to fit to window. Oh, wait a minute. There's a couple little things in here I didn't like. So quickly, I'm going to zoom back in it again. And remember, if you get something that you think there's unnecessary little pieces to, you can always, like I'm going to do, release compound path. And I don't think this little shape here needs to be in there. So I need to ungroup it too. So I'm going to delete that out. Some of these little pieces, they just don't make any sense to leave them in, so I don't put that extra work on the sketching and everything. I'm just like to delete out those little pieces I don't like. Okay, so now I'm going to go and minus out. Okay. And you'll also want to make this a compound path anyway, because what happens is if you decide to cut this on another computer and it's still a font and you don't have that font on your computer, it won't show up. It'll show up as something else, usually a default font. Okay, so now that I had this, I'm just going to start lining this up right down here at the bottom, and we're going to go to our replicate tool. And I'm going to start doing a row of 4, row of 4, row of 4, and keep on going across till I have a complete row to the very edge. Now I'm going to take these and group them. And hold down the shift key to ungroup this with it, and I'm going to group them. And just to balance them out a little bit, I'm going to do them about right here. See, I've got a little corner of a leaf there and a little, so that looks pretty centered. Now I'm going to mirror them above. And I'm going to keep on doing this till I get to the top. And as you can see, because this is such an intricate design, it really starts going a lot slower. So I'm going to zoom in here now. And it looks like I need to push this up just a little bit. So it's right there to the edge. And I'm going to bring this to the front. And then selecting all of this right here, I'm going to go to the modify tool again, and we're going to select crop. Now this is going to take a little bit because of the intricate design. And you'll see that little ball just is spinning. And if you don't want yours quite this intricate, I could have made these larger and it wouldn't take so long, and I probably should have done it for this video tutorial. Because this is taking even longer than normally. But I guess we'll have to be patient while it does this. Alright, we've got them all done. Okay, now I'm just going to, I saw some little things in here, I don't know what. I'm going to go ahead and delete that out. Let me try to glue them right here. I'm not exactly sure what these are, but I don't want them in my cutting file. Okay, now I'm going to select all of this and group it. Make it a compound path. I'm going to make the color of this, the line color, a pretty gold. And you'll get what I'm doing here in just a minute. Now we're going to go back to fit to window. I'm going to set this to the side. And of course, I'm going to use that same gold to fill these so you can see what it looks like later. So we're going to do the line color this way. I'm going to hold down the shift key so I can fill it with the same color. And now we're going to go back over here and grab our card piece. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. Because I want these to line up perfectly before I do anything. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make my score lines. And I always like to make them a blue color. And then I like to go in here and do this to show a difference in the line color blue. For some reason it didn't make the line color blue. I'm going to Alt and click to duplicate it. Take it down here so I can set it right there. And I don't want to group this yet. So now I'm just going to stretch this down just a teeny tiny bit and select this piece and stretch it up just a teeny tiny bit so it overlaps this center part. Now holding down my shift key, I'm going to select the center part and the top part. We're going to go down here to the bottom and select weld. So now we have our card. I'm going to go back to fit to window so I can group all of this. Oh, hold on, before I group it, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fill this with a darker red. So I'm going to go to advanced options because I used a really dark cardstock. A brown and I think a burgundy on both of them. There, that looks good. Okay, now I can group these together. And for some reason, this likes to collect everything that comes in its path. I'm using a beta version. Okay, so now we want to see what this looks like. So I'm going to right click and bring this to the front and line it up on here. And it's okay if it goes a little bit over because remember it's going to sketch and cut around it anyway. But I'm just going to zoom in. But I want it right above that score line. So fit to window, and I'm going to duplicate this. So I'm going to go mirror below. And we're going, so we can see what this looks like. I'm going to make this a paper color for the insert. So let's pick a fill color here. And I think I used sort of that color. Oh, and we're going to go bring to front. Because another thing you can do is you can add that same design right across the border here on the bottom and the top of this. It's your design. You can do whatever you would like. And then I'm going to bring this to the front so we can see. And I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees and bring to front so you can get an idea of what this is going to look like. Lined up. Okay, and we can blow this up again so you can see it better. for some reason this looks like it needs to be a little bit wider, so I'm just going to pull it, stretch it out. I'm going to do the same thing down here because I want to make sure it covers up that edge. And I want it to go all the way to the bottom of the score line, so I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. Okay, so now let me zoom in here. And when your sketch pen sketches this out, and I used a gold metallic gel pen to sketch it, and it just looks absolutely beautiful on a dark paper with your high gloss gold. And of course this would be your invitation part, which we would also need to scale down so it fits right up just above the score line. So let's zoom in. And we go fit to window. So this is your invitation part. These parts here will fold up over it, creating a gorgeous design. So now you also may want to do this in layers. This is what I did. The first thing I did is we're going to go to our layers. And when I select a group, it usually shows you what group it is. So this one says polygon, so I imagine it's this piece right here, and it is. So now I know to name it trim. Okay, and then if you click on this piece here, you know that is the card. And if I want to ungroup this and use the copy paper, because you really don't want these little dashed lines in here, so you could ungroup it and select your score lines and have them done in copy paper, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, so now if I select this portion here, we know that that is our design. And this is our trim. Bottom. Card insert. And this would be design bottom. Okay, now that we have this all done, we're going to go ahead and rotate this around. We're going to rotate it back 180 degrees because the cardstock that you use for this particular, we're going to make sure that we have these set back in place, is kind of pricey and you really don't want to ruin it. Well, we don't like to ruin any of our materials, but this one here, okay, and this one's setting pretty nicely. Okay, so now knowing that we have this and this done, the first thing we would want to do is sketch, right? So that would be our designs. So I'm just going to make a new layer. We're going to name, going to add a new layer here, and I'm going to put card. And then I'm going to add another new layer and put design. And I'm going to add another new layer and make it trim. Okay, so now that we have everything in order, I'm going to go ahead and X out of this. I'm going to go over to my cut settings. I'm going to go to advanced. And now we see each one. So the first thing I would want to do is to turn these off. And do your trim, which would be a very heavy. I'm going to use chipboard setting because it's pretty heavy. So chipboard for that. Our design, we want to make sketch pen. So we go down to our silhouette sketch pen. And I use a sketch pen holder to be able to use my metallic gold gel pen. So we're going to select silhouette sketch pen. And the card, I like to use especially if it's going to be for a wedding invitation, you want to use a really nice heavy cardstock. So we just find that. Let's see. I don't know where the heavy cardstock setting is gone to. Maybe I passed it up. Oh, there it is. Cover stock. And this one's already set to cover stock. So first of all, we're going to cut our trim. So you want to do this and load your stuff for your trim. So you'll have that and set it aside. So we want to check that, so it will cut that. Okay, now you're finished with doing your trim. So let's go ahead and use the sketch pen to do your design. Okay, when you're finished with this, you can turn on your card and you can cut that out. Now, like I said, if you want to change this, you would ungroup it and make another layer just for your score lines, so they just nicely score it, and you can use the setting of copy paper. So that's how you would go about cutting this using the layers feature. Okay, this is a absolutely beautiful card. Oh, and later on, of course, this was the other part. This is your insert. So you would also want to, oh, and it won't bring it to front, by the way. I wanted to tell you all this too. Okay, if you have something when it starts at the top or whatever, and you see I have this selected, it will go behind everything. If I want this to change, I have to move it here towards the bottom so it shows up at the top. And I'll just do an example. Oops, we got to put that back with the card. And you would want to move this to the bottom so it would show up towards the front. And there you go. That's how you can arrange things where you can see them. Okay, I hope this has shown you how you can create a beautiful card like this. And besides being a wedding invitation, it's just gorgeous. It's so ornate. You can make something else really special out of it, a card of any kind. I know anyone that will get it will really enjoy it. Oh, one other little thing. When these flaps fold down, and I should have done this when I had them showing you how they face up and down, I made a little tiny sliver and right here in the card, this piece of cardstock itself, just so these can be tucked in to hold it closed. You can also make a little, I'll show you. We'll just go back to that vintage and select our letter H. And I'm going to make it a compound path. And I'm going to offset it. Whoop. Offset. And you can also make something like this as a closure. You could even have let the pattern in it if you wanted a little pattern on top, but I would just make it in the metallic gold. Actually, let's just do this because then it'll give me the line color too. And you can make this your little closure on the front. You would just adhere this to the, when this part folds down here, you would just adhere this to the top, and you can still make a little tuck point or whatever, or you can make two of these where they fold into each other. So I'm going to Alt, click, rotate 180 degrees. And you could also make a little closure this way by using two of these little pieces. Okay, well, I hope this video tutorial has shown you how to make something new and how to use the layers, and well, it shows you to use the layers and other pieces that you may have around, like your labels and all sorts, and how to make trim for cards and everything. So enjoy trying this out. If you have any questions, you can email me from my blog, paperpulse.blogspot.com, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.